How you doing out there, everybody? Today I want to talk about evolution and involution and how it relates to or is the spirit of Christ. And gonna go through a couple of different references here, and then end with a Bible verse that I believe speaks about it. All right. According to most of the traditions, East and West, spirit has a dual movement with relation to the manifest world. The creation of the manifest world occurs by, to use the terminology of the Christian version of the great chain of spirit, going out itself, stepping down and reducing itself to a lesser version of itself called the soul. Then the soul itself condenses and again steps down to create a lesser version of itself, the mind. Then the mind likewise crystallizes into a lesser version of itself, the living body. Finally, the living body condenses downward into the lowest, densest, lifeless version, matter, or the physical realm, where matter here means not the exterior of all levels, but the lowest of all levels. So all of these realms are versions of spirit. There is spirit as spirit, spirit is soul, spirit is mind, spirit is body, and spirit is matter. Each level is simply a reduced version of spirit with less consciousness, less being, less spirit, but all being spirit nonetheless. To use the wooden ladder analogy, spirit is both the highest level or rung on the ladder, its transcendent dimension, and the wood out of which the entire ladder is made. This entire movement outward and downward to create a universe is called involution. When this involution first occurs, each step downward is bought at a price of unconsciousness. As spirit steps down into soul, it forgets it is spirit and only recognizes soul. As soul steps down into mind, it forgets that it is soul and only recognizes mind. As mind steps down into body, it forgets that it is mind and only sees body. And as body finally steps down into matter, it forgets that it is body and only knows the material world, which then blows into existence with the Big Bang, producing a universe of nothing but lowest level matter, with all the higher levels being forgotten, unconscious, and not seen or manifest by existing as unconscious potentials of the universe. This explosion of the Big Bang into a purely material world is exactly what happened according to the latest scientific theories. Nothing but physical material objects blew into existence. There was as there was as yet no life, no living bodies had yet emerged, and hence no minds or souls either. Although, according to integral theory, there were interiors, since the four quadrants go all the way down, starting with simple prehension in the lowest fundamental particles. But once the material world blows into existence, the results of the overall involution movement, then the entire process begins to reverse itself. This reverse movement of matter back to spirit is called evolution. In evolution, each higher level emerges from or through the previous lower level, and thus appears as a significant leap forward, often hard to explain. Out of matter, living bodies emerged. How did that happen? Then, out of living bodies, minds emerged. How? We are now at the point in return evolution where, according to this traditional view, a significant number of people are starting to awaken to the fact that they possess souls, or, by whatever name, a spiritual component that goes quite beyond the mental ego. And that's speaking collectively. Individually, anybody can take up meditation or contemplation and successfully awaken to all of these higher levels not just soul, but all the way to spirit, that were forgotten in the prior involutionary process, but continue to exist in the higher unconscious. These levels are realms awaiting our own remembrance or awareness, and hence our own waking up. Now as I was saying, sorry, the causal archetypes are the first forms that occur during involution, not evolution. The first forms in evolution, that is, the forms that came into existence with the beginning of the Big Bang, were, according to the various physics theories, strings, quartz, or some other fundamental particles or phenomenon. According to the traditions, these subatomic forms would be the last forms that were created during the involutionary process, and they are based ultimately on the causal archetypes, which gave rise to soul forms, then mind forms, then body forms, and finally the matter forms of the Big Bang. Therefore, as the last forms in involution, they are the first forms to emerge in the reverse process of evolution or reflux. Whatever you might think of this theory of involution evolution, it certainly solves the problem of where the Big Bang itself came from and how higher forms managed to emerge from lower forms, a puzzle to philosophers and scientists alike. You can't get the higher from the lower is a common phrase you hear when philosophers and scientists discuss this issue. But this theory takes care of that problem. The higher emerges out of or through the lower in evolution because it was put there in involution, which is the creation of the lower from the higher, which involves uh, no theoretical problems at all. And this also helps me with like what we talked about in earlier videos about alien life being the particles or the diamonds, being quantum physics, that they actually are the quantum physics. Um, it transcribes itself into the quantum realm, to become what we call physics and numbers. Like it's actually living inside of it. The physics is the super meta natural, if you will. Okay, and now listen to this: a vision of the Holy Grail. This is a vision of the vegetable body or soul, which has been so transformed by moral feelings and intellectual questioning that it is fit to carry a higher form of spirit, the spirit of Jesus Christ. Ephesians 4 9 through 10. Now that he ascended, what is it but that he also descended first into the lower parts of the earth matter? He that descended is the same also that ascended up far above all heavens or dimensions, realities, that he might fill all things. So we see here that, what took Ken Wilber like, a lot of writing to explain, the Bible kind of explains it in two verses: the ascending and descending, evolution, involution, and the lower parts of the earth, meaning, the lower forms of matter, and that he fills all the heavens, dimensions, realities, whatever you want to call that, spirit worlds, heavens. He fills all of that because he is that. He is in us. We are in him. We are all connected consciously, um, collective consciously, all through awareness and understanding, the fullness of Christ, as people say. Okay, well, I hope you all enjoyed that. Thank you for watching. God is love, and I love God.